Samsaradava nalalidaloka Tranaya karuna guna gunatvam Praptasya kalyana gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Mahaprabhu ki Tana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyan Manasorasena Romancha Kampa Shutaranga Bhadyo Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Shri Vigraharadhana Nityanana Shingarathan Mandiramarjanado Yuktasya bhaktam saniyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Chaturvida Shri Bhagavad Prasada Swadana Triptan Hari Bhaksha Sanhan Kritvaiva Triptim Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Shri Radhika Madhavayor Para Madhurya Leela Gunarupa Namnam Pratikshanasvadanalolupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Nikunjayo no ratikele sedhai Yayali vir yukti rapekshaniyai Tatrati Daksharati Vallabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda साक्षादारित्वेन समस्याश्रे उक्तस्तथा भाव्यत एव साध्वी किंतो प्रभोर्या प्रिय एव तस्य वंदे गुरो श्री चरणारविन्दम् यस्य प्रसादा भगवत् प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादा नगति कुतोऽपि जायां सुवांस्तस्य यशा श्रीसाद्यं वन्दे गुरो श्री चरणारविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्री चरणारविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्री चरणारविन्दम् नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसरि गौर भक्तवृंद चैतन्य नित्यानंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसरि गौर भक्तवृंद चैतन्य नित्यानंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसरि Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Chaitanya Nityananda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha, Nila Madhava Radha, Nila Madhava Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jaya Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Namaste Narasingaya. Namaste Narasingaya. Pralada Lada Daine. Pralada Lada Daine. Hiranyakashi Purvachaha. Hiranyakashi Purvachaha. Silantankana Kalaye. Jaya Silantankana Kalaye. Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha. Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha. Yato Yato Yami Tato Narsimha. Yato Yato Yami Tato Narsimha. Bahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha. Bahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha. Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapate. Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapate. Tava Kara Kamalavare Nakam Abhuta Shringa Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringam केशवतीर्था नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय जय श्रील भक्त प्रहलाद की जय
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्णा प्रेयसी नमो नमः नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्णा प्रेयसी नमो नमः प्रेयसी नमो नमः राधा कृष्णा सेवा पावो अभिलाषी राधा कृष्णा सेवा पावो अभिलाषी જે તો મારા શરણ લો તારા વંચ પૂરન હોય. કૃપા કોરી કોરો તારે વૃંદાવન વાસી. મોરાએ અભિલાષ વિલાસ કુંજે દિયો વાસ. નયને હરિબો સદા જુગલ રૂપરાસી. એ નિવેદન ધારો સાખીરનું ગાતા કોરો. સેવાધિકારા દિયે કોરો નિજ દાસી. દીના કૃષ્ણ દાસે કોઈ એ મોરા હોય. શ્રી રાધા ગોવિંદા પ્રેમે સદા એના ભાસી. શ્રી રાધા ગોવિંદા પ્રેમે સદા એના ભાસી. નમો નમઃ તુલસી કૃષ્ણ પ્રેયસી. નમો નમઃ પ્રેયસી. નમો નમઃ યાની કાની ચ પાપાની ભ્રમાહત્યધિકાની ચ તાની તાની પ્રનાશંતિ પ્રદક્ષિણ પદે પદે. यानी कानी च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रनाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे. यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रनाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे. हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम हरे हरे. हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी नित्याय गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्याय गौरा हरि बोल नित्याय गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्याय गौरा हरि बोल। श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंदा देवी की जय। वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णु भक्ति प्रद देवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः। वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णु भक्ति प्रद देवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः। वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णु भक्ति प्रद देवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः। श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंदा देवी की जय।
Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter will have his wishes fulfilled. Bestow mercy upon him and make him a resident of Vrindavana. My desire to also grant me residence in the precious groves of Shri Vrindavana town. Thus within my vision I shall always behold the beautiful paths of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of the Karho Danso Virgin. Please give me the privileged devotional service and make me your own maidservant. This very lawful and lowly servant of Krishna praise. May I always swim in the love of Shri Radha and Govinda. Srimati Tulasi Maharani ki jai. There are 10 fences in the matter of chanting holy names that should be avoided, and they are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees or dedicate their lives for the propagation of holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the name of the demigods like Lord Shiva or Brahma to be equal to independent name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the order of spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature pursuing the Vedic version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6.
Anniversaries.
Holy name Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities and strength of chanting holy name. 8. To consider chanting Hare Krishna one of the auspicious ritual activities, offering Vedas fruit activities, karma, ganda. 9. To instruct a faithless person about God's holy name. 10. To not complete faith in the chanting holy name and to maintain material attachments in understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to achieve desired success. Krishna Prema.
Now let us offer most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Kalpatarabhyascha, kripa sindhu bhyevich, patitanam pavinebhyo, vaishnavebhyo, namo namaha, Vaishnava Thakur ki jai. Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Yatodapana marjanam bhavamaha davagni nirvapanam Shirakairabhya chandrika vitaranam vidyavadu jivanam Anandam buddhivardhanam pratipulam purnamrita swadanam sarvatma snapanam param vijayate Sri Krishna sankirtanam nam namakari bahuda nija sarvasaktis tatrapita niyamitak smaranina kalaha etadrishita vakripa bhagavan mapi durdaivam samihaj janina Trinadapi sanichena tarorapi sahishnuna
amanina manadena kirtaniya sada hari nadanam najanam nasundarim kavitamba jagadishakamaye mama janmani janmanishware bhavatat bhaktir haituki twayi aina dadanujakam karam patitamam shame bhavam buddho kripaya tava padapankajastita tulisadvisam chintaya nayanam galadasrudaraya vadanam gadgadurudaya jira pulakaya nisitam vapurukada tavanam grahane bhavishyati yugayitam nimesena chakshusapavrasayitam sunyayitam jagat sarvam govinda virahename aslishyava padaratam pinastrimam adarsanam marmahato kuratruva yata tata vavidata tulam puto matprananatas tusa eva na paraha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Sixastakam prayers Ki Jai. Glory to Shri Krishna's Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. The Sankirtan movement is prime benediction of humanity at large because it spreads the rays of benediction movement. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of the kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the strongest tree. One should be more tolerant than the tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotion service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda, Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen to this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, my eyes be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name. When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs on my body stand on end at the recitation of your holy name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Sixastakam Ki Jai. Shri Guru Pranama prayers Ki Jai. Om Aganyati Mirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhistam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Pachkamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragulatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakadamitam Sha Nama Om Vishnu Badaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Tinamine Shiva Savanavi Devi Dayitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vigyana Dayane Prabhuve Navaha Madhur Ujjvala Premadya Shri Rupanuka Bhaktida Shri Guru Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostate Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanu Gavarudapa Abhisidanta Dvantaharine Namo Guru Kishoraya Shakshadvaragya Murtaye Vipralamba Rasambode Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitanandanamine Guru Shakti Swarupaya Rupanu Gavarayate Gaura Vir Baba Bhumestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya
Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Sri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Vanchakalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Guru Chuse Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Avatanam Bhakta Kam Namami Bhakta Saktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Jayatam Suratur Pangur Mama Bandha Mater Gati Matsarva Swapadambo Jo Radha Madana Mohano Divya Dvindaranya Kalpadumadaha Shimad Ratnagadasi Masanastito Shimad Radha Sila Govinda Devo Prastali Bihi Sevyamanu Smarami Shiman Rasa Rasa Rambi Vamsivata Tatastita Karsan Venuswane Glupir Glupinatak Striyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavanishwade Rishabhanustate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam Chintamani Prakara Sadma Sukalpa Vriksha Laksha Brite Susulabhira Palyantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambhrama Sevyamanam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Venum Kwanandam Aravinda Dalayataksham Barhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpa Gotika Maniya Vishesha Sobam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kala Sadvana Malya Vamsi Ratnam Gadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam Shamam Tribanga Lalita Nita Prakasam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pasyanti Panti Kayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedesa Dukulabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastukoti Satavansara Samprakam Yova Yoratapi Manasomani Pungamana Sopyasti Yad Prapadasimya Vichinti Tatve Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chayitam Jagadanta Kotim Yas Chakti Rasti Jagadanta Jaya Yadanta Adantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Yad Bhava Bhavita Diyomana Jasta Taiva Samprakti Rupa Mahima Sanayana Busa Suktarya Meva Nigama Prititastutvanti Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Satpati Bhavita Bistabirya Eva Rupataya Kalabi Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilatma Puto Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksa Deva Yudesa Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Chintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Menitisthan Anavatarma Karod Bhuvanesukintu Krishna Swayam Sambhavat Paramam Pumam Yo Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the Supreme Godhead. He has an eternal blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor, who is tending the cows, yielding all desires, in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or gopis. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute, with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with head decked with peacock's feathers, with the figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, round whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers beautified with the moon locket, whose two hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always revels in pastimes of love, whose graceful, threefold bending form of Shamsundar is eternally manifest. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is full of the most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of that transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged functions of all the organs, and eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subjected to decay, is without a beginning, whose form is endless, and is the beginning of the eternal Purusha, yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, only the tip of the toe of whose lotus feet is approached by the yogis who aspire after the transcendental and betake themselves to pranayama by drilling the respiration, or by the jnanis who try to find out the non-differentiated Brahman by the process of elimination of the mundane extending over thousands and millions of years. Go ahead. He is
Undifferentiated entity, as there is no distinction between potency and the possessor thereof. In his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him, and he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe, at one and at the same time. Such is the primeval Lord whom I adore. I adore the same Govinda, the primeval Lord, in whose praise men who are imbued with devotion sing the mantra suktas told by the Vedas by gaining their appropriate beauty, greatness, thrones, conveyances, and ornaments. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm Goloka, with Radha resembling his own spiritual figure. The embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities in the company of her confident Sakhis, embodiments of the extensions of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever blissful spiritual rasa. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Shyamasundara Krishna himself with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts with the eye of devotion tinged with the salve of love. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who manifested himself personally as Krishna and the different avatars in the world in the forms of Rama, Nrisimha, Vamana, etc., as his subjective portions.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Brahmasamhita ki jai. Glorification of the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.1. Janmadasya yata niviyad itaratas charte sovigya surat jene brahma hidaya adhikavaye muyandiyat surayaha tejo varimidam yata vinimayo yatra chisargo misha damna svena sada denasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen on fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions to three modes of material nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Dharma projita kaitra votra parama nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavam atra vastu sividam tapo trayon mulanam shrimad bhagavate mahamani krite kim vapare ishvara sadyur hidya varudyate trakriti bihi susapistak shanat. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from religion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold mysteries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within its heart. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam sukhamukad amritam taravrisabhyatam Pipla Bhagavatam rasam alayam muhur ahur rasika bhuvi bhavaka. O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literatures that emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanande Haribo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pracharini Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Vaskatya Satarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 9 and verse number 29. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maveda Garbhagastandrim Sarga Udyaman Avaha Tanmaya Paditam Higre Yanman Partayate Bhavam. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Lord, the personality of Godhead, said, Ma, do not, Veda Garbha, O you who have the depth of all Vedic wisdom, Gatandrim, become dejected, Sarge, for creation, Udyaman, enterprises, Avaha, you just undertake, Tat, that which you want, Maya, by me, Apaditam, executed, he, certainly, Agre, previously, Yat, which, Mam, from me, Partayate, begging, Bhavan, you. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead then said, O Brahma, O depth of Vedic wisdom, be neither depressed nor anxious about the execution of creation. What you are begging from me has already been granted before. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Does anybody wants to read?
Purport by His Grace Prabhupada. Any person authorized by either the Lord or by his bona fide representative is already blessed, as is the work entrusted to him. Of course, the person entrusted with such a responsibility should always be aware of his incapability and must always look for the mercy of the Lord for the successful execution of his duty. One should not be puffed up because he is entrusted with certain executive work. Executive work. Fortunate is he who is so entrusted, and if he is always fixed in the sense of being subordinate to the will of the Supreme, he is sure to come out successful in the discharge of his work. Arjuna was entrusted with the work of fighting on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and before he was so entrusted, the Lord had already arranged for his victory. But Arjuna was always conscious of his position as subordinate to the Lord, and thus he accepted him as the supreme guide in his responsibility. Anyone who takes pride in doing responsible work but does not give credit to the Supreme Lord
does not give credit
to the Supreme Lord is certainly falsely proud and cannot execute anything nicely. Brahma and persons in the line of his disciplic succession who follow in his footsteps are always successful in the discharge of loving transcendental service to the Supreme Lord.
Very good. This is a very profound purport. This explains a lot of confidential knowledge in relationship of the sincere devotee and Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These are the things that we have to learn. This is real culture. This is real knowledge. Just like it says in Bhagavad Gita 9.2, where it says that real knowledge is understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So let's just take a look at that real quick, where it says, just a second. Yeah. Rajvidya Rajikuyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyaksha-vagamam Dharamam Susakam Kartam Avyayam. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is a perfection of religion. It is everlasting and is joyfully performed. So this is a description of what is real knowledge, as given in Bhagavad Gita by Krishna himself. Then it says, Ashradadanak Purusha Dharmasya Parantapa Aprapyamam Nivartante Mrityu Samsara Vartamani. Those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. So if we take these two verses and compare them to this purport today, you will see that this purport today is extremely profound, let's say, explanation of how you can be successful in everything you do. Now, everybody wants to be successful, but they don't really know what the path of success is. Just like in the 1930s and 40s, there was a famous book, How to Make Friends and, what's the name of that book? How to Make Friends and Be Successful, or something like that. It was how to what? Yeah, how to win friends and influence people. So everyone was buying that book to learn how to do that. Of course, the book is nonsense, but they wanted to be successful and influence people. So what was it? How to make friends and influence people? Is that it? Yeah, Dale Carnegie, right? Exactly right. So Dale Carnegie is nonsense, but he sold, hundreds, thousands of books of the nonsense that he was peddling. It's called snake oil. In previous generations before Dale Carnegie, you had these people that went around in these Conestoga wagons, and they'd stop in every town and village, and they'd call everyone to come, and go was a bottle filled with this liquid, and it could heal everything, heal lumbago, heal this, heal that. And he would sell it, and everyone would buy it because he was a good speaker, and he'd tell a lot of jokes. You have to have jokes, right? It's got to be entertaining. And then before people would buy the bottle, and before they'd go home and try it out and see it was a bunch of nonsense, he would be out of town on his way to the next town. See? So he was selling they would call it snake oil. They were selling snake oil. So, the cheaters have been there since the beginning of time. And they use the same, what you would call modus operandi. Look that up. That's a word in English, although it's a Latin phrase. Modus operandi. You ever hear that before? Yeah. What's it say?
It's a particular way or method of doing something.
Exactly. So the modus operandi of the snake oil seller was, he'd come with this big Conestoga wagon, and his horses and everything. And then sometimes they would dress very bizarrely, and then they would call all the townspeople, and then they start telling some jokes. And then they explain, all the good things this liquid in the bottle could do for them. And by the time, he finished all his jokes and all his talking and everything, people would stand in line to buy it, right? And as soon as he get all the money, immediately he would leave as soon as possible before they realized that they bought something that's nonsense. Right? So we have the same thing going on today, but instead of selling snake oil, they sell hoaxes. H-O-A-X. Look up that word, hoax. Now, I gave a lecture yesterday, but many of you weren't there at somebody's house. But we discussed some very interesting things. What's a hoax?
Humorous or malicious deception.
What?
Or malicious. Yeah.
Humorous or malicious deception. Right. Okay, so yesterday in this class, I announced to everyone that the Big Bang is dead. There's no more Big Bang theory. They found out that it doesn't really work. Did you know that? Yeah. Did we discuss it in the class yesterday? Yeah. Okay, so Big Bang is dead. 2, the moon landing did not happen. 3, marijuana is not good for you. They were claiming it's very good, does this, does that. Now there's proof there's no good. 4, Darwinism, we come from monkeys. There's no proof one species turns into another. And the hoax of the tailbone. So this is very important because you have to understand what's the difference between Darwin's theory of evolution and the Padma Purana's explanation of evolution. Padma Purana says that all the species were created immediately at the creation of the material world. So there's no one species turns into another species. Darwin's theory of evolution is that one species turns into another species eventually over time. Now, if you look this up, you'll see that there's no proof. They've never seen this happen. It's another one of those things that it happened in the past. We can't do it in the present, but it will happen again in the future. This is a complete nonsense. This is not science. Let's take a look at what they say here. I'll show you where to find. Okay, so frequently asked, this is an evolution library. Frequently asked questions about evolution. You want to look that up? Frequently asked questions about evolution. So, point 1, how long does evolution take? And their explanation is, even though evolution is taking place all around us, for many species, the process operates so slowly that it is not observable except over thousands of hundreds of thousands of years, much too long to witness in a human lifetime. Well, that is not science. Science says observation, experimentation, theory. They can't do the observation. They can't live long enough to see it happen. They're just guessing that it happens, and they're calling it science, and they have no proof. You see. And then it says, there are cases in quickly reproducing life forms like bacteria and fruit flies. However, where evolution can be seen happening in a matter of weeks for the bacteria and many months for the flies, in these cases, the relatively large number of generations in a given period of time is key, since evolutionary change occurs incrementally from one generation to the next. All else being equal, the more generations you have, the more quickly evolution happens. That's called blah, blah, blah. They just wrote some nonsense here. They're saying, oh yeah, well, fruit flies we see, one species turning into another species. No, they didn't say that. That's what they want to say, but they didn't say it because it doesn't happen. But there are certain little changes, but nothing that one species of fruit fly turns into another different species. You see, it's just blah, blah, blah. Yeah, go ahead.
One of the observable way of identifying the evolution, they say, is the fact that every year we have these new viruses that keep coming. And then they say that one virus mutates into another virus, and then that's their observable proof of evolution. How do we? So basically, let's say in COVID also, there was like different variants that kept coming. And then they say that one virus, when it is no longer able to survive, another variant comes out. So how do we understand that, and how do we?
Well, those are not human beings. Those are not real species. You look up the definition of a virus. It wouldn't be considered a living being like a human being. What's a virus?
Prabhu has a point that it still is a virus, it didn't become another species.
Yeah, but go ahead. So let's see what the definition of virus is first.
So, virus, an infective agent that typically consists of a nucleic acid molecule in a protein coat, and it is too small to be seen by light microscopy and is able to multiply only within the living cells of a host.
Of a what?
Of a host body.
A gross body.
Host.
Host
like,
body. Yeah. Yeah. So it's not a being. You understand? Like you are a being. You have a specific genetic makeup and so forth. It's a host. It's like what you would say a parasite, right? It's not actually a living being. So we're not comparing apples to apples here. You see.
Will the virus have a soul, Maharaj? No, right?
No.
So it's
not that I know of. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't. It doesn't have a soul. Yeah, it wouldn't have to piggyback off of another living entity. Yeah, what do you want to say, Prabhu? Viruses are made out of genetic materials, yes. Okay, leftover materials inside the human's body. That's what the virus is made of, right? So you see, it's not an independent living entity like you are. We're not talking about apples to apples here. We're talking about some type of what you would call dependent type of virus on a body. Without the body, it would not exist.
There is a second definition, Maharaj. It says a piece of code that is capable of copying itself and typically has detrimental effect, such as corrupting the system or destroying the data. So it's always dependent.
Yes. All right, so we have confirmed that a virus is not a person, right? So you're not comparing apples to apples here. You see, you have to be very careful and look at the definitions of things and understand what we're talking about. If you're comparing apples to apples, okay, fine. But a virus is not a human being. It's not a species like like the African species or the aquatic species, whatever. Okay, so here we see it happened in the past. We can't do it in the present, and it'll happen in the future. That's complete nonsense. That's not science. That's all speculation. Right? Yes.
And also I read in the book, there must be millions of iterations to reach one level to the other. Then we should have found some evidence. If they say it exists, then where are...
Well, they're saying we don't live long enough to see the evidence.
No, but we should have found the skeletons or something, like, this iteration became this...
They found millions of skeletons, but, that doesn't prove anything.
No, but they didn't find. I mean, so they should put like all those where after they excavate, they should put all this, okay, I found this. See, if there is a progression of...
They make their own skeletons. There's a whole industry of making dinosauric skeletons. Did you know that?
Yeah, in China, they're selling for millions of dollars.
We love the Chinese. We love them. Any nonsense, they can make it. They make their own fossils.
Yes,
right?
I read.
This is Brontosaurus. These are the bones of the Brontosaurus. The whole thing is a hoax, right? There was this one family, a very nice family in Portland. So they would ask me to come to their house and do a program, so I went sometimes. And they had 2 little boys, they're really nice little boys, right? So they put this one boy in kindergarten. So the first time I went, the boy was, chanting Hare Krishna, and he was, reading stories about Krishna's pastimes, and he had his own deity, Jagannath or something. He was dressing the deity, right? So there was like 1 year, difference. I go back. The whole house is full of dinosaurs. The kid became an expert in dinosaurs. This is a Brontosaurus. And this one here is Exororis. He stopped talking about Krishna. He stopped worshiping his deity. He was just overwhelmed with dinosaurs. And the parents, I don't know why they let him do that. It was crazy. His whole life now was dinosaurs. That went on for years. So, this is how nonsense this whole dinosaur thing is. If you ever saw a dinosaur, you'd run away as fast as possible, right? This kid is like, hugging them, he's sleeping with them, he's talking about them. His whole consciousness became dinosaurs. And where did he learn that? In the school. I mean, this is crazy. Don't send your kid to school, and that's becoming a dinosaur in their next life, So these things are hoaxes. They're gigantic hoaxes, right? So there's Darwinism, that one species becomes another species. It's never been proven. And you just heard what I read, right? They just talk about a lot of blah blah. Can you observe evolution happening? Because of many species, humans included, evolution happens over the course of many thousands of years. It is rare to observe the process in a human lifetime. Usually, only laboratory scientists studying quickly reproducing life forms, like single-celled creatures and some invertebrates, have the opportunity to see evolutionary change happen before their eyes. That doesn't prove that they actually saw it. They're just saying they can see it. And then it says, all of us can and do experience the indirect effects of evolution nearly every day. However, one of the more important evolutionary concerns facing humans today is the emergence of antibiotic-resistant microbes, a battle against bacteria that we have been winning with medicine for the last 50 years or so is now an even race, according to some scientists. Wow, they changed the subject real quickly there. They went from talking about, human beings to viruses, right? And then it says, a battle against bacteria that we have been winning with medicine for the last 50 years or so is now an even race, according to some scientists, because of the rapid rate of bacterial evolution. Similarly, the use of pesticides in agriculture has driven the evolution of resistant insects that require more or harsher chemicals to be killed. Scientists studying Galapagos finches, those types of birds in South America, have seen evolutionary changes in beak size and shape in just a few years. That's not changing a species. The beak went from this wide to that wide. Is that evolution? That's not evolution, right? So if your nose, when you're 20 years old, it's 4 inches, when you're 30 years old, is 2 inches. Does that mean you change species? No, this is nonsense. It's all blah, blah, blah nonsense. So then it says, because of the rapid rate of bacterial evolution, similarly, the use of pesticides in agriculture has driven the evolution of resistant insects that require more or harsher chemicals to be killed. Scientists studying Galapagos finches have seen evolutionary changes in beak size and shape in just a few years. Major evolutionary transformations take much, much longer, meaning we've never seen it happen. This is nonsense. This is not science, you see. And they're peddling it as if it's science. And it's unbelievable that they can get away with this. And no one is challenging them. Okay. Yes.
I've seen some posts in the past. The Indians are coming up with the evolution theory was already conceptualized in Vedas by Krishna's incarnation. Krishna came as turtle first, and the water species, and then boar, animal species, and the land species, and then half lion, half human, and the fourth is Vamana, like small height, full human, and then Rama, fully grown up human. So I've seen posts going around by the Indians to support the evolution theory that was already conceptualized by the Vedas?
Well, if we look at, one second, in the Bhagavad Gita, if we look at eight, I'm going to have to find this. Okay, I'm going to have to find this. We'll come back to this. Okay, on the 9th chapter, 8th verse, Bhagavad Gita. The whole cosmic order is under me, under my will. It is automatically manifested again and again. And under my will, it is annihilated at the end. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, the different species of life were created immediately along with the universe. Man, animals, beasts, birds, everything is simultaneously created. Because whatever desires the living entities had at the last annihilation were again manifested. It is clearly indicated here by the word avasam that the living entities have nothing to do with this process. Yeah, it's not that one species turns into the other, or the beak of the finch got increased 2 inches. That's the proof of evolution. It's complete nonsense, right? The state of being in their past life, in the past creation, is simply manifested again, and all this is done simply by His will, Krishna's will. This is the inconceivable potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And after creating different species of life, He has no connection with them. The creation takes place to accommodate the inclinations of the various living entities, so the Lord does not become involved with it. So it's saying here, 9th chapter, 8th verse, Bhagavad Gita. Now, as far as the living entities are concerned, they are impregnated into the material nature, and as a result of their past deeds, they take different positions. Thus, the activities of this material world begin. The activities of the different species of living beings are begun from the very moment of the creation. It is not that all is evolved. So that's Darwin's theory. Everything is evolving. The finch became the bear. The bear became the dinosaur. The dinosaur became your grandmother. It's all nonsense stuff. It's not a fact. They have no proof of it. They can't show anything to prove it, right? The only thing they can show is manufactured dinosaurs made in China, right? The bones, right? Give him the microphone. Give him the microphone.
Supriya Mataji posted on a group thread about this topic, saying that when Narasimha Bhagavan appeared, there was already...
When who?
Narasimha Dev appeared, even though they talk about it's in part of the evolution. But when Narsimha Bhagavan appeared, there were humans. Prahlad Maharaj was a human being. So why would the Lord take an inferior position if it is part of the evolution? So, that's a very valid point. So this whole this is I've heard the same argument from somebody in the past as well, but it is the some Indian Mayavadis that try to gel with because they don't have the proper arguments to defend, so they just try to go with the science as well as scripture.
Well, that's what the Christians do too. Christians were saying for like thousands of years that the world started only 5,000 years ago. Then they came in with carbon-16 analysis and this thing and that thing. And they said, well, no. The world has been existing 4 billion years, right? So then they had to do something not to have mud in the face. So they said, well, we accept what they say also, maybe we got the number wrong, It's all a hoax. It's all speculation. The church is speculating. The scientists are speculating. And they're trying to, fit one speculation into the other speculation. And then what we just read now is unbelievable. They're saying, well, we don't really live long enough to see the change of species, but we know it's happening in the past, and it's going to happen again in the future. We just can't see it now. That's not science. That's hocus pocus, blah, 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 right? It doesn't have any scientific validity, those type of arguments. I'm sorry to disappoint you. So why am I talking about this? Because we have the proof now that Darwinism, we came from monkeys. In other words, the monkeys changed into human beings. How come the monkeys are still existing, right? Oh well, it was an ancestor of the monkeys and the human beings. What can you show us? The bones? Well, we haven't ordered it yet in China, but they're working on it. This whole thing is nonsense, right? And they're getting away with it. Even though they know it's not true. It's just like the moon landing. Now the evidence is there. They never went to the moon, but still they're teaching it. And then the Big Bang, they're still teaching it, although they know it's been debunked. Okay, so then another myth: meat, sex, gambling, intoxication are actually good for you. Did you know that? There's articles. Why don't you look it up on the internet right now? There are articles that, if you have sex, it's actually good for you. It helps your heart. If you eat meat, it's actually good for you. It gives you protein, right? And if you take certain types of intoxication, like marijuana, it's actually good for you. Now, you see, there's a whole industry of making scientists write papers validating false ideas. You can get a scientist and pay him, $20,000 to write a whole book about how, having sex is actually good for you. And the more sex you have, the better you are. You're going to be healthier. Your heart will beat better. This will do this, that'll do this. So it's an industry of misleading. Did you find something? Huh? Yeah, you see, you have to realize it is an industry. They pay scientists, PhDs. You're a PhD, right? They pay guys like you to write a book of complete nonsense, right? And because you got a PhD, all the dumbbells, they buy the book, and they say, well, see, a lot of sex is good for you. The PhD said so. You know?
So this is, I mean, we run a company, right, Maharaj? So this is how all the educational institutions work. They want funding to run some, the professor has some topics that they want to cover. And then the organizations or the corporations have an agenda. So they pump in money and then they say, okay, this is their ultimate aim or the goal. Like this is the message that they want to get to. So now numbers can be twisted to tell the story that you want.
Yeah, in other words,
statistics
there's a
don't lie.
saying, statistics don't lie, but those who make the statistics lie.
Yeah, yeah. So they hide the pieces that that they don't want to highlight, and then they only emphasize.
It's called selective
evidence.
All the evidence that doesn't prove their theory, they throw it away. They bury it.
For example, Starbucks wants to prove that the coffee is good for health.
Yeah.
So they will do, they'll ignore all other data. They'll highlight few things. There may be some. It may be completely unrelated, but it's just some correlation, and then they just make it a highlight.
And they advertise it big time in Starbucks. Okay. Another hoax. God doesn't exist. So, these are, there's a bunch of things here that we could outline and write about, not write a whole big book, but we could point out evidence that these things are false. They're not scientific, and they're misleading people, especially kids. They're being fed all this nonsense, right? So your homework is, so I gave a list here: Big Bang, moon landing, marijuana is good for you, Darwinism. We come from monkeys. See, we come from monkeys means the monkey turned into a human being at one time. That's what Darwin is saying, right? And then you'd say, well, how come the monkeys? They say, well, there was a ancestor of the monkeys and the human being. What, do you have the bones of that? Well, we're still having the Chinese figure that one out for us, So this is the way to get around bringing any real proof to the table. And then having papers written by PhDs that meat is actually good for you, that sex is actually good for you, intoxication of certain things like marijuana is actually good for you. All that has been debunked. But yet they're still talking about it. And then God doesn't exist. We have to talk about this. We have to give the proof that God does exist. Like, just yesterday I was listening to a class by Prabhupada, and he said, they say Krishna is a myth. He said, then how come there's so many books about Krishna? There's hundreds, thousands of books about Krishna, and how can it be a myth? Why would they write so many books about him if it was a myth? So, and the books are highly scientific, the Nectar of Devotion, and all the books that the Goswamis have written, and many other great Vaishnavas have written.
Whole culture, Maharaj, like the music, whether Hindustani or Carnatic or the dances, every culture, the dances are about the Lord, and the books, as you said, and the food,
the art.
Art. So this every aspect was, and obviously the temples everywhere. Yeah. So how could
it be a myth?
Yeah.
Speaking in the microphone.
I mean, this is always controversial. Like, in the even past, like thousands years back also, there were people like atheists, those who are not believing God, and now also. So how it is different than past? It's always there. It's been there. It's going to be there. There are always certain people will follow, certain people won't follow.
Well, I'm saying that if you teach something that is false, like the moon landing for 60 years in science books, and you're teaching in school, that is a major, hoax. And the same thing with the Big Bang Theory. For 50, 60 years, they've been preaching this as if it's science. And now they're saying it's not. Another one would be a hormone thing for women, hormone therapy for women. They were recommending that for like 20 years. Then they said, don't do it. It causes cancer. You can look it up, the hormone therapy for women. For 10, 20, 30 years, doctors are saying, you got to do this. This one devotee lady, she said to me, Prabhu, my doctor's insisting I take these hormones. What do you think? I said, don't do it. But he said I have to do it. Otherwise I'll die. I said, don't believe what he said. So she didn't do it. And then she said, well, I feel really good that I didn't do it. I feel much better now than when I was taking it. So you see, there are periods where they're recommending things that are actually very dangerous. Do you see anything about hormone therapy for women? Yeah.
So Maharaj, I have another question. So there are two, now is a kind of argument, but not argument. In Bhagavad Gita, and in this verse, the Lord says that, Prabhupada explained that a person is authorized by the Lord to do certain activity.
Yes.
So it's already planned. Also, and it also supported in the Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna was chosen as an authorized person to carry out this activity, right?
Because he was respectful of Krishna, and he accepted Krishna's instructions, and he was not puffed up.
So it's kind of a, so if it is a plan and certain person is actually means put into such a situation so that he will become the capable of doing certain activities, or because as per the plan you need to put in situation, or that person, we say that always, it's a free will.
Okay. So this will be answered tomorrow. And tomorrow, Krishna says that that when a devotee performs penance like Brahma and perseverance, then they will be successful in everything they do. What's perseverance? Perseverance means you're doing something that there are many obstacles and very difficult to do, but you don't give up. So when you have penance and perseverance, you'll be successful, because you have complete faith in the Lord. Okay? So we'll discuss that tomorrow. So we'll stop right now. So if you want, as homework, try and, so I mentioned a few big hoaxes, but I'm sure there's a lot more. The Big Bang, the moon landing, marijuana is good for you, Darwinism, we change one species to another, meat, sex, intoxication is all good for you. No, God doesn't exist. It happened in the past, we can't do it now, it will happen in the future. All these are hoaxes. They're misleading, purposely misleading the people. But maybe you can find some more of these points. things that were, just like estrogen therapy for women. That was touted for a long time, and then they about faced and said, "Don't do it, you'll get cancer." Look up estrogen therapy. You found it?
Yeah, I found the previous one.
Yeah. This was recommended by the doctors for years.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. It says the history of hormone replacement therapy.
A hormone replacement therapy. Okay.
It started in 1960s with very high popularity in 1990s. The first clinical trial on hormone replacement therapy and chronic post-menopausal conditions
Right.
were started in USA in late 1990s.
Right.
After the announcement of the first results of the Women's Health Initiative in 2002, which showed that the hormone replacement therapy had more detrimental than the beneficial effects. This hormone replacement therapy use dropped. The negative results of the study received wide publicity, creating panic among some users and new guidance for doctors on prescribing hormone replacement therapy.
Okay, send that to me. You see, this is going on all the time. And people are suffering like anything because of it. Okay, so we'll stop right there. Now, is this something we should discuss in class? Yes, because it's affecting people. It's affecting people even now. What do you think? I mean, are you shocked that they didn't go to the moon? Are you shocked that the Big Bang is a hoax? I mean, if you realize, what this means, it means that these people are liars. They're purposely making things up to mislead. And the whole idea that, well, it happened in the past, we can't do it in the present, and it'll happen in the future. This is nonsense. That's not science. That's hocus pocus nonsense. Yeah. Okay, Haribo. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Or should I say? Okay. You can sing if you want. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma.
Bandhamui Savadhana Mate. जहार प्रसादे भाई ए भवतो रिया जाय.
जहार प्रसादे भाई ए भवतो रिया जाय.
कृष्ण प्राप्ति हो जहाँ hoite. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Kya.
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Kya.
Arana Kori Ho Mane Asha. Arana Kori Ho Mane Asha.
Arana Koriya Mane Asha.
Shri Guru Charane Rati ऐसे उत्तम गति. जय प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा.
जय प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा.
चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से. दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो. प्रेमा भक्ति चाहा होते अविद्या विनाशा जायते. वेदे गाय जहार चरितो. लोकनाथ लोकेर जीवाना. हाँ प्रभु करो दया देहो मोरे पद छाया. ए बेजाज गुशुक त्रिभुवन. शीला प्रभुपाद पतित पवन. शीला प्रभुपाद लोइलो शरण. जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा. जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा. नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने. नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे. नमस्ते Saraswati Devi. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktarinda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nanta Koti Vaishnava ki jai. Jaya Sri Haridasa Ki jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Bhaktivedanta Srivasa Gaur Bhakti ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sant Punya Radha Kunja Giri Govardhan Shri Vrindavan Dan ki jai. Mayapura Dan ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dan ki The lotus feet, right, which one way by which we can attain the pure devotion.
By His grace, one can cross the ocean of material sufferings and obtain the mercy of Krishna. Only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emitting from His lotus mouth. Attachment to His lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills our desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From Him ecstatic prema emanates. By Him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of His character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. Loknath Goswami, O master, be merciful to me. Give me the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds.